Isaac Dulgarian was a 3-1 betting favorite. Hours before the fight, millions in suspicious bets flooded in against him. Then he lost in the first round to Yadier del Valle with what commentators called an F- performance. Now the FBI is investigating. Fighters are coming forward about being offered $100,000 to throw fights, and the entire sport of MMA might be rigged. Here's how a random UFC prelim exposed a scandal that could destroy combat sports forever. November 2025. UFC Fight Night at the Apex in Las Vegas. Isaac Dulgarian versus Yadier del Valle. This should have been a forgettable undercard fight. No rankings, no hype. Scheduled opposite Game 7 of the World Series. But what happened that night set off alarms that reached all the way to FBI headquarters. Because something was very, very wrong with this fight. Fight day morning, 1 p.m. The UFC receives a call from IC360, the biggest sports betting watchdog in the world. They work with every major sports league and every major sports book. And they had bad news. Something unusual was happening with the Dulgarian fight. Lots of unusual bets, all of them on Del Valle to win, all of them targeting the first round. The UFC immediately called Dulgarian and his lawyer, asked if he was injured, if he owed anyone money, if anyone had approached him about throwing the fight. Dulgarian said no to everything, told them he was going to kill his opponent.
Probably about 1 o'clock that day, they reached out to us and they told us that there was some unusual action going on. So what we did was we called the fighter and his lawyer and said, what's going on? There's some weird betting action going on in your fight. Are you injured? Do you owe anybody money? Has anybody approached you? And the kid said, no, absolutely not. I'm going to kill this guy. And Louis said, okay.
His coach at Factory X confirmed the same conversation happened. Dulgarian reassured everyone he wasn't involved.
And, we had the conversation about allegations. He reassured me he wasn't involved. I have no reason not to believe him. We reassess like we would any time. And, we have some news. Let's verify whether this is true or not. He reassured me it wasn't.
So the UFC let the fight proceed. But while the UFC was making phone calls, sports betting analysts were watching something terrifying unfold in real time. The betting patterns weren't just unusual, they were unprecedented. Saturday morning, multiple sports books received large bets on Del Valle, the underdog. Nothing illegal about that.
So Saturday morning, some sports books I spoke with took large bets basically on Del Valle.
Who's the underdog.
Yep. Right. Nothing necessarily off about that. People have some sort of opinion. That's totally fine.
But here's what made it suspicious. Many bets came from brand new accounts. Others came from sharp betting accounts that had been dormant for months, all suddenly active, all betting the same way, all targeting a first-round finish.
But there are also kind of some on new accounts, some sharp accounts. They then had been dormant for a while. All of a sudden, they were also betting. A lot of bets as well going for just who's going to win in the first round. So that sets off some red flags. Some of those bets are reported to gaming and compliance. Some sports books close the fight then. That's it. Some keep it open.
Then 5 massive bets hit the Hard Rock retail sportsbook. That pushed it over the edge.
What precipitated, I guess, this becoming the problem it has is 5 bets that were placed at the Hard Rock retail basically pushed things over the edge.
By fight time, the total handle, the total money bet on this fight, reached $16 million. For context, that's insane for a UFC prelim at the Apex. Most of these fights see maybe $100,000 to $500,000 in action.
The final handle on the Dulgarian fight was $16 million. I really cannot contextualize how preposterous a $16 million handle on a fucking Apex prelim is.
This one saw $16 million, 30 times the normal amount, and almost all of it was on Del Valle to win in the first round. So the bets were in, the warnings were issued, and now the fight everyone was watching with suspicion was about to start. And what happened next confirmed everyone's worst fears. First round, opening seconds, Dulgarian shoots a sloppy takedown attempt.
If you want your son high-level wrestling, send him 2-3 years Dagestan and forget.
Gets reversed immediately, gives up his back, makes no attempt to defend, then gets submitted by rear naked choke at 3:41 of round 1. Exactly as the suspicious bets predicted. The fight stats tell the story. Dulgarian landed only 3 total strikes. Del Valle landed 28. Del Valle attempted 3 submissions. Dulgarian attempted 0. Commentators were baffled, called it an F- performance.
I gotta be honest here, that was a F- performance. It was absolute trap. If that's how you're gonna fight, there's other people more deserving.
Said he made day 1 mistakes. One analyst called it an absolute trap. The moment the fight ended, suspicion exploded. Fans knew something was wrong. Sportsbooks knew something was wrong. And in a move almost never seen in sports betting, multiple books offered refunds to anyone who bet on Dulgarian. They didn't want to profit from what looked like a fixed fight. And the next morning, the UFC made one phone call to the FBI, so the fight was over. The FBI was involved, and the UFC cut Dulgarian from the roster immediately. But this was just the beginning, because within 24 hours, a bombshell accusation dropped on social media, and it claimed this wasn't one bad fight. It was a pattern spanning years, and the entire sport might be compromised. The day after the fight, a man named Harry Mack dropped a post on Twitter that got 9 million views. He claimed over 100 UFC fights had been flagged for abnormal betting patterns, though Dana White has since disputed this number, calling it clickbait, and no major outlet has independently verified it.
So for anybody out there that's clickbait saying, oh, there's hundreds of it's all bullshit.
He claimed 2 other fighters on that same card were also under investigation, and he claimed this scandal was way bigger than anyone realized. The MMA world exploded. Pitchforks came out. Everyone started scrutinizing old fights, referee calls, judging decisions, asking who knew what, when did they know it, and how widespread is the problem? Within days, multiple fighters came forward publicly. Some claimed they'd been approached to throw fights. Some retracted their statements later, saying they were joking, but others confirmed it privately to journalists. MMA reporter Ariel Helwani said a fighter texted him anonymously, "Gamblers have approached me. They offered me about $100,000. I told them no." That fighter wanted to remain anonymous, but the message was clear. This has been happening. Fighters are being targeted. Why would fighters take the deal? Because for low-level UFC fighters on prelims, $100,000 is more than they'll make in 3 or 4 fights combined. Isaac Dulgarian's purse for that fight, probably around $20,000 to show, $20,000 to win. So if someone offers you $100,000 to lose a fight nobody's watching anyway, the temptation is real, especially when you're struggling to pay bills and the UFC isn't paying you enough to survive. But the accusations didn't stop with fighters being offered money, because another name kept coming up, a referee named Jason Herzog, and people started asking, are referees involved too? Harry Mack, the same person who broke the story about suspicious betting patterns, claimed that fights refereed by Jason Herzog were being audited by investigators. This is a serious accusation about a specific person. Herzog is a respected referee who's worked major UFC title fights, but the claim hasn't been verified by other major sources yet. Dana White hasn't confirmed it, Ariel Helwani hasn't confirmed it, and Herzog hasn't been charged with anything. That doesn't mean it's false, it means we don't know yet, and that's the problem with a scandal like this. Once trust is broken, everyone becomes a suspect. Fans are combing through every stoppage, every decision, every weird moment in old fights, looking for patterns, looking for proof that the sport they love has been rigged. And that paranoia? That's almost as damaging as the corruption itself, adding fuel to the fire. The week before this scandal broke, the FBI announced arrests of prominent NBA figures in a massive illegal sports betting scheme. 4 mafia families allegedly involved. So now fans are connecting dots. Organized crime, match fixing, referees, fighters, gyms, management companies. Everyone's a suspect until proven otherwise. But there's one more connection that keeps coming up. A name banned from the sport 3 years ago, and his involvement might prove this isn't a new problem. It's been happening for years. 2022 MMA coach James Krause and several of his fighters got caught in a betting scandal. Suspicious betting patterns, allegations of inside information being used to manipulate odds. The investigation is still ongoing. 3 years later, no one's been charged. But Dana White confirmed that the Krause investigation has now been folded into this new one. The FBI is treating it as one massive case. Here's where it gets interesting. James Krause discovered Isaac Dulgarian years ago. Dulgarian later went to Factory X Gym, where coach Mark Montoya had a long-standing relationship with Krause. According to reports, multiple fighters who came forward and then retracted their statements are connected to the same management circles. Coincidence? Maybe. But people are noticing the pattern. None of this proves anything, but it shows how deep the rabbit hole goes. And it shows why fans are scared. Because if this connects back to 2022, how many fights over the last 3 years were compromised? How many results were predetermined? How many fighters took dives for cash? We don't know. And that's the terrifying part. So the scandal is bigger than one fight. Multiple fighters have been approached, coaches and connections are being investigated, and the FBI is looking at years of suspicious activity. But here's the real problem. Even if only a few fighters are guilty, the perception that the sport is rigged could kill MMA forever, and the UFC has to fix it fast. Americans wagered $150 billion on sports in 2024, and if they can't trust that the fights they're watching are real, the UFC has a catastrophic problem because sports betting is now legal in 38 states. It's the fastest growing revenue stream in sports, and if bettors think fights are fixed, they stop betting. If fans think results are predetermined, they stop watching. The UFC's entire business model depends on trust, and right now, that trust is shattered. Here's how the UFC has handled suspicious betting situations. In 2015, a fight involving Beck Rawlings got flagged. In 2022, the James Krause situation. And now, Isaac Dulgarian. Every single time the UFC did the same thing. They got warned about suspicious betting, called the fighter, let the fight happen anyway, then contacted authorities after that playbook might not work anymore. Critics are asking, like, why let the fight happen? Why not pull it from the card the moment IC360 raises alarms? The UFC says they asked Dulgarian directly and he denied everything. But if millions in suspicious bets are flooding in, maybe that's enough evidence to cancel the bout. Because letting it proceed and then watching it play out, exactly as the suspicious bets predicted, that makes the UFC look either complicit or incompetent. The Nevada State Athletic Commission withheld Dulgarian's purse indefinitely. His gym cut him, the UFC cut him. But he hasn't been charged with anything. He hasn't spoken publicly. There's no smoking gun proving he threw the fight. Just suspicious betting patterns and a terrible performance. In America, you're innocent until proven guilty. But in the court of public opinion, Isaac Dulgarian has already been convicted. But even if Dulgarian is guilty, even if a dozen other fighters are guilty, the bigger problem isn't the past, it's the future. Because the incentive structure that allowed this to happen still exists, and it's not going away. Let's be honest about why this happens. Low-level UFC fighters make terrible money. A fighter on a prelim card at the Apex might make $12,000 to show $12,000 to win. Training camp costs $10,000 minimum. So even if you win, you're barely breaking even. And if you lose, you're in debt. Now imagine someone offers you $100,000 to take a dive in a fight that 10,000 people will watch and forget about 5 minutes later. For some fighters, that's life-changing money. That's rent for a year. That's paying off debt. That's surviving. The UFC could fix this by paying fighters more by giving them health insurance, by making it so they don't have to choose between financial survival and integrity. But right now, the incentive to throw fights exists because fighters are desperate. And as long as they're desperate, gamblers will target them. This isn't just a UFC problem. Bellator has the same issue. PFL has the same issue. Any organization with low-paid fighters on under-the-radar cards is vulnerable. So the structure is broken. The UFC's response has been inadequate. And the FBI investigation? It's going to take years, which means this scandal isn't going away anytime soon. The James Krause investigation started in 2022. 3 years later, no one's been charged. No indictments, no trials, nothing. Federal investigations move slowly. They're building cases that have to hold up in court. That takes time. So if you're expecting quick answers on Isaac Dulgarian, don't hold your breath. This could take years. And in the meantime, every weird stoppage, every controversial decision, every upset will be scrutinized. Fans will wonder if it was real or rigged. Reputable MMA journalist Nate Wilcox claims the FBI has been tracking suspicious MMA bets since 2021, that they're ramping up investigations significantly over the next 6 months. That referee assignments will be cross-referenced with betting patterns. If that's true, we're just at the beginning of this story. More names will come out. More fights will be questioned. More fighters, coaches, and managers will be investigated. This isn't ending anytime soon. And here's the worst part. Even if only 5 fighters are guilty, even if 99% of UFC fights are legitimate, the perception of corruption destroys the sport. Because once fans start asking, was that real or fake? After every finish, the sport is over. MMA becomes professional wrestling, predetermined outcomes, scripted drama, and if that happens, the UFC will never recover. So why does this scandal matter? Because Isaac Dulgarian's fight wasn't just a bad performance, it was a symptom of a broken system. A system where fighters are paid so little that $100,000 to throw a fight becomes tempting. A system where suspicious bets can flood in hours before an event, and the fight happens anyway. A system where the UFC has known about problems for years and done the bare minimum to address them. Americans bet $150 billion on sports last year, and if they can't trust that UFC fights are real, the sport dies. The FBI is investigating, fighters are coming forward, and the entire MMA world is waiting to see how deep this corruption goes. This isn't just about one fighter or one fight. This is about whether combat sports can survive in the age of legal sports betting. Isaac Dulgarian was a 3-to-1 favorite. Millions in suspicious bets came in against him. He lost in the first round exactly as predicted. Now the FBI is investigating. Suspicious patterns span years, and the sport might never be the same. This is the biggest scandal in UFC history, and it's just getting started. But speaking of predictions that actually came true, Conor McGregor predicted his entire rivalry with Khabib Nurmagomedov years before it happened. Every detail, every moment, and what he said was eerily accurate. That's the next video, and you're not going to want to miss it. If this breakdown helped you understand what's actually happening, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into combat sports controversies, and if you want to support the channel in creating more in-depth analysis and documentaries like this one, leave a super thanks below. Every contribution helps us keep digging deeper into the stories that matter. Comment below with your theory on how deep this betting scandal goes, because trust me, the story is far from over. Appreciate you watching.